right.
Here I go. This is a nice view.
Welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting. Today is August 6, 2019. Here presenting is Councilor Lynch, and my name is Omar Gomez. I'm the chairman of this committee. Here we have Councilor Conniff, we have the police chief, Chief Roberti, and DPW Director Joe is somewhere there. I'm gonna start asking, I will take a motion to accept the previous minutes from July 2nd.
So moved.
I second it. All those in favor? Aye. I wanna, because a lot of people here, I wanna set a few rules before public safety, public speak time. I'm gonna let everybody to speak. First, raise your hand so that way I can recognize you, and that way I can let you speak. Please be brief, respectful, and if you have any questions, if we can, we're gonna answer. We have the police chief here, probably he can answer a few, same with Joe. I just wanna ask for that. Is anyone here that wanna say something that is not in the agenda? I think I passed the agenda, everybody has the agenda. Anyone that wanna say something that is not in the agenda, now is the time to say it. Councilor
Sorry,
Conniff.
I'll keep this very brief, and this is just a question to you. Has this committee talked about, and I just asked the police chief, have we talked about at all the behind the mills traffic flow ability to get to, coming in by the Legion and or coming in by INSA, and the access and egress from there for bikes and pedestrians, and most importantly signage to let people know that pedestrians are leaving, bikes are coming? Have you talked about that?
No.
Okay.
The answer is no, because it wasn't in the agenda before.
Right.
Because we
Oh, it
had
was
only,
in the agenda.
yes, because we only have Union, before we have only Union and Carter Street. Last meeting, we make a motion to bring it to the whole city, to talk about pedestrian to the whole
Okay.
city.
So is that what's on the agenda?
That's what is in the agenda today.
Then forget I said it.
Yeah. So we're gonna start talking about that today, and that's what we have the police chief and Joe.
Is the
Yes.
issue that I'm here for about the plowing on the agenda?
No.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk
Yes,
about...
you can speak.
I wanted to talk about whether the property, the road in front of 25 and 27 Franklin Street can be plowed. Previously, Jack the barber, who passed away 5 years ago, that would be John Franzik, used to pay to have that done because he had a deal with the various owners through the years, since 1966, where he would take and have the snow removed from his parking lot and push across underneath the pine trees, which have since been cut down. But I think that for quite a few years, that was privately plowed, and that's what was going on. Presently, of course, Jack is gone, and I am running the barber shop that he had for since 1966, 53 years. I've been there 5 years, and I'd like to stay, but I've been running up against a problem with people claiming they have private property, private limits on access to the property. In other words, private parking in front of 26 and 25 and 27 Franklin Street, which is across the street. My side of the street, 26 Franklin Street, where the barber shop is, has no parking. It's a no parking sign. So it would basically, push me out of my business if we couldn't get this resolved and have some plowing done in the winter. So I'm contesting the private property claims. I have provided deeds. Did you bring them? Yeah, and a letter from a lawyer stating that there's no such rights expressed. So anyway, that's about as brief as I can be.
I talked to you before. We don't have that in the agenda yet. Look like you have some documentation there.
Well, yeah, I brought stuff here just to show it.
Okay,
Just pictures.
I just wanna make a copy of that and
This
I
is my
will.
business certificate with the city of Easthampton from 10/15. And, you know, just stuff like that, just to kind of prove that I'm running a business there.
Okay, I just wanna, if you let me later, I will take, wanna make copy of it. And
Okay.
then we'll bring it to Joe and see
And I brought
why and the
pictures.
police chief about this topic about
Yeah, showing things.
about it.
Yeah,
Again, they can answer
Yeah.
you and no one can answer you now because it's about the agenda.
Yeah, okay.
So, but thank you.
But these are pictures that I had made to show some of the things that have been done.
So anyone
Debris
else
and
that
snow
is,
put
wanna
on
say
the
something
street.
that is not in the agenda?
Even so much as borrowing a
And then
truck.
see, we'll see,
and
I'm just
pushing the snow
commenting
right into the
to,
parking area.
what
So, the
Councilor
Liberty Block.
What was
said
that?
about,
Comment.
about the, part, you know, we just discussed this in the
But
rail trail.
we're gonna talk about.
Well, I just making a comment that we had just, somebody brought this up at the rail trail meeting last week, that, you know, the safety of
I
riding.
know, I just talked to him.
Yeah, okay, so the writing of, that's why it's like, God, you sound just like that person. Okay,
yeah.
so I was just, you know, that's amazing, okay. She just talked to him, that's why.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, we don't have any new business. And the business that we already was talking about was the parking that we tabled until we had the report from the city. And now it's the topic that I guess everybody's here. It's about the pedestrian safety review in our city. Talking about the whole, every single street in our city now. I think we should start talking about College Street, and I think this is the right moment to ask Yo about what you guys are doing in College Street, and can you please explain us what you guys are doing to?
Well, Cottage Street is being funded with two different funds. One fund, Complete Streets, the other one is Chapter 90. Complete Streets will only pay for the crosswalks going across. So after we did put the crosswalks in, the road's all torn up, so we've got to spend Chapter 90 money to pave the street. So by the time all's said and done, that stretch of road will cost about $500,000. We got a $200,000 grant from Complete Streets for 4 crosswalks, and we get $480,000 in Chapter 90 every year. So we're gonna have a little bit left over, but not enough to go anywhere else. So obviously, what you see is what you're gonna get. You get the bump outs by meetings, and down here, they're gonna put the rapid flashing beacons, so when people walk up, they can push the button and get the rapid flashing beacons.
And how many crosswalks are they gonna have? Those ones?
2
Only 2. The first one and the last one.
in the last one.
Okay. Do you have any questions about any other crosswalks in our city? By any chance, DPW are thinking to add more crosswalk, like in East Street or any other street, because now people are gonna walk to Mountown and from different areas. Is any, if you guys are planning to do something like that, to add more crosswalk or eliminate some crosswalks because in some areas look like it's too many, or?
Well, East Street's 5 miles long, so where would you put a crosswalk?
I'm just asking.
No, we don't have any plans to add any crosswalks at this time.
And is any plan to paint the crosswalks that we have in our city? I mean, is yes, how many?
Well, it's funny, we talk about painting crosswalks. It starts in March. We're not even out of snow season, and the calls are coming in. When are you gonna paint the crosswalks? When are you gonna paint the crosswalks? When are you gonna paint the crosswalks? Well, there's a couple of issues. First of all, we're not even out of snow season. The roads aren't even swept. The temperature isn't right for painting them. Most of them gotta paint at night, because they can't go out during the day. Temperature overnight has to be 50 degrees. We can't use oil-based paint because it's got all the organic compounds in it, which federal agency says is no good for the applicator or the environment, so we gotta use waterborne paint, which probably lasts 20% of what the oil-based paint does. So we're struggling with constraints trying to get them painted. you look out here, you can see, most of our crosswalks are painted. I chuckle though, because there's two crosswalks, Northampton and West and Northampton and Florence Road, that belong to MassDOT. They weren't painted for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. They were completely obliterated, center lines, everything was gone. You know how many times I called them? They finally painted them about a week ago. 2.5 years. We get inundated in March. When are you gonna paint the crosswalks? Well, MassDOT goes 2.5 years without painting their crosswalks. So, I think we're doing a good job on painting our crosswalks.
I'm not complaining that you're doing a bad job. I'm just asking how many, if you guys paint some, and how many you guys paint. That's the only question that I did. I didn't say that you guys are doing a bad job.
We paint them all.
I just want to be clear with that.
We paint them all, and we have hundreds. I don't even know how many. We have hundreds. We have hundreds. But we paint them all.
Good. You have any questions, Councilor Lynch? I want to open it to everybody now, councilors. I want to start with the councilors, and then if Councilor Conniff want to ask any questions.
I don't have any questions, but isn't there a bump out crosswalk happening on Main Street by Glendale?
That's not a bump out there. That's just a new crosswalk.
Just a new
New
crosswalk?
crosswalk with signage back from the intersection, so it's a little safer.
Yeah, that's something.
When I'll go back to complete streets, we had to identify areas in the city where we thought needed attention. We identified 101 areas that needed attention. We sent that into the state, we got approved for the Complete Streets program, and yep, we'll fund those things. Out of those 101 things, they funded 4 for $200,000. So you do the math, either way, how many years that's gonna take to get all that funded by Complete Streets, or you do the math and figure out what the cost is to do it all at once, it's about $5 million. So, we have this nice list, but 100 something places, but we're only doing 4 or 5 a year.
Councilor Lynch?
Thank you. I know there's been some concerns now with the red on red here about having a crosswalk going from the boardwalk right here at the intersection to One Cottage. Is there any plans in putting on that? Maybe once Cottage Street's complete, is there any talk about that?
Yes, but not when Cottage Street's complete, when Union Street's complete, that's already in the design.
It's in part of the Union Street side?
Union Street.
Okay, that's great.
And when is the Union Street?
I think
Don't
it's
ask.
2023.
Union Street is fall of 2020, maybe spring of 21.
Oh, earlier, I haven't heard
And I guess
23.
the planning board is talking about that today, or the planning, or the plan, I think so.
There's a lot of placards
Yeah,
going
plan, yeah,
upstairs.
yeah, we're talking about
And just so everybody's aware too, I did submit an ordinance to be adopted for crosswalk safety within the city. So if somebody doesn't stop for pedestrian, it's a fine that the city can write as an ordinance to generate funds for our community, in the hopes that the mayor takes those funds and allocates them towards crosswalk safety, and that's what I'm going to ask for tomorrow. You know, it's obviously to their discretion what they do with the money that gets put aside or whatever, but that's the intention, and I'm going to be continuing to look for different ways to generate funds to help, you know, with streets and promoting the safety in the community. So that's on tomorrow's agenda too, that I'm presenting to the council. So I don't know if you were aware of that, but.
I wasn't, but I am aware that the funds generated by the impact fees for the marijuana either go to the police department or have to go into the police department or the roads.
Okay,
Oh, good.
so that'll help.
And hopefully this one will help that too.
Yeah, hopefully we can keep that going towards it, because it's the right move.
Anyone else wanna have a question or comment?
The impact fee for the marijuana is what tolls it's taking on the road or what tolls it's taking on the police department to handle the traffic in and out.
And it's different than sales tax, that's a, yeah.
Right.
Sales tax goes into the general fund. This impact fee has to go to either roads or police.
How much is the,
Last
3%, I think.
I'm thinking now it's around $60,000.
Okay. A year?
But
I don't know if it's a
Quarter.
year, but
Well, it depends on how-
Oh, right now,
Right.
okay.
Anyone else?
Not bad.
Want to comment?
So I'll
Chris?
piggyback on Councilor Lynch's comment about the ordinance for the crosswalk fines. If, it's my understanding that if the city doesn't have an ordinance for a state law and the police ticket, then that money has to go to the state.
Correct.
Is that correct? But the ordinance will fix that problem.
Correct, and we get about 30% of what the fine would be that goes to the state. So by making it a city ordinance and they write the city ordinance, we get 100% of the funds. So that's the idea, to generate more profit
And
in our
this
pockets.
might be a silly question, but we've got speeding ordinances in the city, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there's several moving violations that are in ordinance, and my officers, the majority of my officers on any given shift will write city ordinances before they'll write Chapter 90 citations, 89 and 90 state citations, knowing full well that the majority, all of that money is coming back. And it's also giving the motorists a break because the city ordinance fines aren't as steep as the state fines. So when they approach a car with a ticket in their hand, they explain that they could have written them a $200 state ticket, but I'm writing you a city ordinance for $50. So they appreciate it. The money comes back here. It's a win-win for the city and the officers.
And is that all over the city?
The entire city,
The
yeah.
entire city? Because speeding is a big problem on our street.
Pick a street in the city, and I promise you, I'll find somebody that'll say the same thing. No, I get it. I
And
get it
there-
every
and
day.
then there are no
Yeah.
posted signs, there, you know, and of speed limits.
Where do you
and
live?
Franklin Street.
And so that's an unposted, thickly settled 30 miles an hour. If you put a 30-mile-an-hour sign there, people were gonna go 45 miles an hour than regular.
They do it
Right.
anyway.
Right.
And is there any way to get that lowered?
Chief?
Go ahead,
can you
Joe.
handle that?
Yeah, go on.
When you talk about adjusting speed limit signs, you have to do what's called a speed study.
Right.
And you have to actually record what the traffic's doing. And then, we can't arbitrarily do that ourselves. We have to apply to the mascot, to the state, with the information. And whatever 85% of that traffic's doing is what the speed limit is. So if it's 30, but 85% of that traffic going down that street is now doing 35,
Right.
guess what the speed limit is? 35. So it can go up.
Right. And we've seen it go up. It has gone up. Yeah.
And I'm asking about the traffic signs and that because in a way it's a pedestrian issue. The speeding, the car speeding, it could hit someone, and that's why I'm allowing to speak about that. Again, we have to be attached to the agenda, and that's why I didn't stop you guys because in a way it could affect someone that is walking on the street. Yes.
So, am I supposed to say my name? Or-
Yes, please.
Fred Cooksey. I live on Clark Street. So is this the time to ask a question? When we were here a month ago, we specifically brought up speeding on Clark Street and Franklin Street. Is now the time when I can kind of make a brief statement and
Yes,
ask a
because
question?
yes, because that day at that meeting where you guys was talking, I say yes because I'm gonna add it to the agenda because we can relate that to the safety of the pedestrians.
Yeah, okay. So I just wanted to say for you and for the police chief, I've spoken to a number of police officers in the neighborhood. We live at 8 Clark, which is right at the beginning of Clark Street. I walk my dog every morning down Clark Street to Franklin. The speeding is rampant on Clark. There are people routinely going 40, 45 miles an hour and faster. I feel really unsafe walking on the sidewalk, in part because I am inches away from speeding cars. And it happens every single morning, all day, all year round. And I really feel unsafe. And it's also a noise issue for me as a resident on the street, but mainly it's a safety issue. And it just feels disrespectful of drivers to be going that fast, especially after it got repaved. It's a long straightaway. People treat it like a drag strip. So I'm here to ask if we could please do something, like something physical, not to change the speed limit, but to enforce the speed limit and to force people to slow down. So last time we talked about traffic tables, I think you said they were called, or something like,
Yeah.
something to force people to get down closer to 30 miles an hour. So that's why I'm here to ask the city to please consider doing something about that.
And that's why we have Joe and the police chief to see if we can resolve this in one way or the other. Do you have any answer for that, or?
Yeah, I mean, so the answer is yes, we can enforce it, we do enforce it. But I've said this at several public safety meetings, several city council meetings. Although we do as much traffic as humanly possible, our calls for service, which are 911 calls and calls where people need help or are in trouble, we're up 800 calls at the end of the spring. We're beyond that now. We're probably up 100 or 1,000 calls for service, more than the previous year, which is 2,000 more than the year before that. So I'm taxed, my officers are taxed, my manpower is short, and we're all operating within the confines of our budgets. So we know that there's issues, we know that there's speeding throughout the entire city, and as I said, I could pick a street in town and bring 10 people in who have chronic speeding on the streets. We run 3 to 4 cruisers a shift, and they're busy. So to dedicate one car to sit on Clark Street an entire shift is impossible.
That's not what I'm asking for.
I
I'm
understand
asking
that.
for a physical change to the street that will force people to slow down, so it doesn't have to be enforced by officers.
And I appreciate that, but I'm answering the council's question with regard to
Okay.
what the police can do. So we can do enforcement. We have traffic grants that we get every year. We're actually in the midst of one now. It's actually pedestrian safety. And you've probably seen, and that's an extra shift. That's an extra overtime shift that we're paying for through the state with a grant. And you've probably seen a lot of activity on Cottage and Union and Hoyok Street with car stops on the regular. And certainly Clark Street. And then Clark Street's been on our traffic board for probably the better part of the last 2 months, when the guys can get out there.
Traffic board means.
Internally, inside our station, we have a board, literally a traffic board where we get complaints, streets go up, and they rotate, and we cycle them, because when I tell you we get complaints from every street in town, so we're doing the best we can, and so the answer is I can do enforcement. I can get as much enforcement out there as much as I possibly can, but it's gonna take away from, another complaint in another section of the city, and we can go through the whole city and go street by street. But, we can enforce what we can enforce with the amount of time that we can enforce not answering 911 calls or not going to, name it. Like I said, we're busier than I've ever been in my career. And I'm not using it as an excuse not to do traffic, it's just, we have to prioritize, our calls for service too.
I have Consul Lynch, but I saw that Joe want to say something.
Yeah, I'd like to address the issue of speed bumps, speed humps, speed tables, whatever you want to call them. I've made myself clear to the Board of Public Works many times that I'm not in favor of speed bumps, speed tables, whatever you want to call them. For the simple reason that studies show they don't work. If you look in Northampton, on Florence Road, you got some on Florence Road. They don't mean anything. They don't mean anything at all. On North Street, same thing. They don't mean anything. There was some on Montauk Street that if you weren't careful, they'd launch you. Well, they went and took them down. But if you sit there and watch, what happens is, the studies have shown, people slow down, jam the brakes on, you go to the pump, you hit the gas, go to the next one, slow down. You're not solving what you want to solve by putting a physical barrier here, because you've got another stretch of road that is wide open that they're gonna make up time before they get to the next physical barrier. So, it's a maintenance issue for us. I have enough trouble keeping potholes patched, and again, it's a manpower thing, it's a, budget thing. I don't have funds to go and buy blacktop just to make humps in the road. I'm trying to fill in holes in the road. So,
Is any study showing that something works to reduce the speeding? Because you told us it's a study showing that doesn't work. So is any study showing that something works so that we can try to do it in our city, or nothing works?
What seems to work better is when you paint lines on the road, it gives the illusion of a narrow road so people slow down. So we try to keep our lines painted. Something as simple as that.
Councilor Lynch?
Have we, so we have those speed things that show your speed and everything else, and I know it records a lot of data and everything else. Does that have the ability for e-tickets? I know that there's some out there, there's technology out there that I don't know if it's portable or permanent, that we could put in different locations to capture license plates with speeds to issue tickets and citations in that regard.
The technology is out there, but not in the Commonwealth. Or nobody in the Commonwealth is issuing street signed tickets.
I think Chicopee is talking about it as we speak.
Until it gets through the legislature, no one's doing it.
Okay.
The legislature has authorized it. That's the only reason that we don't have it in the Commonwealth.
Okay.
I think that a police officer has to be present. for-
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Until the legislature changes that, the police officer. So we get, by way, it's a great point, by way of example, we get people calling all the time that will say, I've got a plate number for a car that just went speeding down my street. And there's nothing we can do about it, short of, we go, and we do it, we'll go knock, and somebody else gets run over in a crosswalk. They get a plate number, we'll go and knock on the door and, counsel the best we can. But we have to physically be present. An off-duty police officer can send a ticket in the mail. If they witness something, they can write a citation and send it in the mail. But we have to physically be there, so until the legislature changes, other states have done it, clearly.
Yep.
And it works, it's effective. But until the legislature takes that on.
So I'll write a letter.
Yeah. I know state rep that.
I know a state rep that I can contact,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you have any questions?
Hi, I'm Melissa. I also live on Park Street, and I'd like to piggyback a little briefly as I could. Chris also lives on Clark Street. I agree with everything you said, and this meeting it's all the time. It's constant. And I have 2 kids. There's tons of kids that live on the street, and it's a great concern. And Chad did a speed thing for me in the street in June, so I got the results from that. He did the radar thing. But I also lived on Cherry Street for 10 years, which is 2 streets over. And if people were going the speed they go on Clark Street, on Cherry Street, it would be crazy. It's a long, and it's the same type of street where it's a long, straight, flat, narrow street, and there's no buffer at all between, like you said, they're going inches, feet by, at 45 miles an hour.
More.
50. When I went to bed last night, car went flying by at 10:30 at night, probably 55 miles an hour. And you hear it, it's a sound thing too, it's not just a safety thing, it's crazy.
And I can hear it on Franklin.
Yeah,
I live just around the corner. I can hear
People with
speeding.
dogs and babies and bikes and kids walk up and down that street all day long.
It's true.
And it's not safe, and something physically, I agree, something physically, I don't expect you guys to be able to patrol it because it's constant. Something physically, whether it's stop signs, whether it's speed humps, not bumps, whether it's more signage, whether it's permanent digital radar detectors, it's something, I really think something needs to be done.
Before you say something, they didn't say anything yet, want to say something beforehand?
Annette, he's right, nothing will stop people from speeding, okay? I know, you all know me as the crossing
I mean,
guard there.
the police.
Yeah, well, the police, if they're sitting there.
Yeah.
But they have to be sitting there, and so, I see it all the time after I leave the crosswalk. The car that is sitting there waiting for me to cross a child goes flying up Holyoke Street because they had to wait 10 seconds. So we can talk about it, we can educate, we can do this. They're still gonna speed. Unfortunately, this is our life now. And unless you put spikes in the road, which I'd love to do, they're gonna just, I can't wait till Cottage Street is totally paved and they go flying down Cottage now. Of course, there's little bump outs, but anyways, this is, I want something to get done for everybody, but, it's just 6 years of watching these cars flying by me.
Yeah.
Well, I respectfully disagree with you and you. I'm sorry. I do believe that speed tables or something physical can make a difference. And I think of what I experience when I drive down Pleasant Street in Northampton, where they recently added all those speed tables. I know just in my own driving, it has slowed me down significantly. And because it's such a pedestrian-heavy area, they obviously needed to do something like that. And I think we need to do the same thing, because there is a tremendous amount of pedestrian traffic on Clark Street. So maybe it's not a speed table, maybe there's something else that can be done with the road, but I have to think that's the best thing. And even if they speed up in between them, that would be better than nothing. And I think also I would suggest a stop sign at Franklin Street for a variety of reasons, but mainly just to slow that progress down. And I'll stop there. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
as far as stop signs go, there's what's called the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, up this way, put out by the federal agency. So every city and town and state and Commonwealth abides by this. And one of the things that's in there is you do not use a stop sign to regulate traffic speed. Use a stop sign because you need somebody to stop at that intersection, not to regulate their speed. And that stop signs have to be approved again by MassDOT, and you have to meet what's called a warrant, whether there's how many crashes and so forth. So they won't approve it just to slow the traffic down.
I'm gonna say something, but Councilor Connors.
So I may regret saying this in a public meeting on camera, and you will probably stop me before I get too far. Is it illegal to make it appear that there is a police officer on that street? Via
Counselor, can I stop
lights
you?
that you might. I'm just saying. Holographically or
It's
whatever.
not illegal. Southampton used to do it. The issue is when somebody is in peril and goes running up to that cruiser and needs a police officer, we're gonna have a major
Lawsuit,
liability.
say.
Right.
Seemed
Yeah.
like a good idea at the time.
And if somebody's in trouble and running up to a police car, I want a police officer in that car.
I understand.
Someone wants to say something.
It was me.
You're gonna be next. I promise.
So I'm Mr. Borchak. I live on Clark as well, and the speeding's pretty bad. But I just wanted to say that you've got a room full of generally angry people, but we're not angry at the police. We're not angry at the city. We're just here to try to figure something out. In fact, the police have been incredibly gracious and helpful in doing extra monitoring there and ticketing. I don't know if they're ticketing, but they're certainly stopping people. So it may seem like we're yelling. We're not. There's a lot of people here who just want to see something done.
Frustration.
And it's frustration, yeah. And that's all I wanted to say, really. I think speed humps work. When I'm on Florence Road, I don't go 45 because I have a suspension. I'll go 30 over those humps, but that's the speed limit. It's a good point about not using a stop sign to regulate speed, but we've all tried to make turns on Clark Street from one of these side roads pretty hard. They're narrow roads. I think a stop sign for that reason would be perfectly fine too. That's all I really have to say on it.
Can I ask a question? Was the speed sign that we put up, was that in view where you guys could see this car's speeds as they're going?
Yeah, right by my house, but they asked them to put it by my house.
So did
And
you
that
get-
was good. But when I
Right,
crossed-
okay, I just wanted to make sure. So you got a
I
pretty
watched
good,
it.
so you got a pretty good idea of
Oh,
how,
yeah.
like when,
I can tell when people are speeding with the sound. I don't even have to see them. You can hear when I almost say, oh, Mom, I'm home, Mom. I can hear, I know when they're going way too fast. It's a different sound. You can come hang out at my house. Because our house is literally 10, 12 feet from the road.
it won't make you feel any better, but where I live,
Yeah.
it's a nightmare. Traffic is a nightmare, accidents are a nightmare, and speeding cars from morning till night is a nightmare.
I think-
So I appreciate exactly what you're speaking to, because I'm living it as well.
Because Clark Street, though, I think is unique compared to other streets because there is no buffer. It's narrow. You know, there's no grass,
There's sidewalks
there's
are
no
crumbling.
issues. I mean, they're literally, I go out and do gardening and people don't slow down. I'm not there with my kids, people don't slow down. It's scary.
I only say that because I appreciate exactly what you're going through, because I'm living it myself.
Maybe that's what street you're on?
Yeah, she's gonna be first.
You're next.
I'm Erin. I live on Franklin Street, and I brought up the issue of speeding, turning off of Clark onto Franklin, and just continuing their speeding pattern. And I've talked with Marty, who's my neighbor, and she shared with me how she's witnessed the increase of speed, like over the years that she's lived there. She's been in her house almost 3 years. And we were having a discussion, and we both came to the conclusion that basically, like, we're not mad. We are not mad. We're deeply concerned, however, because more and more children are in these neighborhoods. And it almost feels like unless something tragic happens to one of our children, nothing will be done. I mean, so, you say you don't want to put in speed tables or whatever for this reason or that. How about the safety of the children that live in the city, that live off of Clark, that want to ride their bikes down Clark? I don't feel safe enough to let my 10-year-old do it, to have the freedom to just be a kid and do something like that. Not only that, but it's the older folks that live off of Clark as well, who I have many conversations with as they walk by my house in Franklin, that they don't feel safe. So something must be done. And, we need to have like a citywide, like, public fundraiser to help you all make these things happen. There's lots of young folks that would be willing to step up and make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor.
Did you have something?
I was going to.
Yeah.
My name's Laura Connor. I live on Main Street, and I walk a lot for exercise, and I have found one thing that helps a small amount of flags, but those are at crosswalks. So if I take a flag and walk across the street, I'm praying that the person who is driving quickly on Main Street is seeing my flag. So I'll have to admit that whoever incorporated those flags, that actually is helping. It makes me feel a little bit safer in a crosswalk. But I have to say that Clark Street, and I would say Main, I used to live on Holyoke Street, there's a lot of speeders, but I don't really know exactly how you can get that to stop. I mean, I don't have an answer for stopping, but I will say that at the crosswalks, those flags have been helpful to slow the people down once they see me starting to cross, because a lot of times without the flags, I feel like I take my life in my hands when I try to cross a crosswalk, but that's just...
Thank you. Councilor.
Just a quick question on the table, speed tables or whatever they're called. Whose ultimate decision is it that those get put in or not get put in?
That would be the Board of Public Works,
Okay.
but then again, it's a funding issue.
Sure. But I mean, we can try to look at options to fund it, if that's something that they would approve.
Funding and resources actually do it.
Okay. So
Well, definitely,
I think we need to address it with the Board of Public Works and at least throw it on their agenda.
And as a committee, we don't have the power to tell them what to do, but we can send a recommendation letter to them about this issue, the concern of the neighbors in that street and.
Are their meetings public?
Yes, they
Yeah,
have
they're
public
public.
meetings.
When is the next meeting?
Next meeting is the 14th. May I say something else?
Yeah.
Back in March, I think they gave you copies of this letter. I sent a letter to the mayor and the finance director, and I outlined the fact that our roads are in horrible shape. And just to do the main streets, East Street, Main Street, Toyota Street, do the main street, $6 million. So, we're looking at something a little different than just putting a speed hump in or a table. And I don't even want to talk about the condition of our sidewalks. Sidewalks are horrible. I have $20,000 a year where I can go and replace a slab here and a slab there, and people call up and say, the sidewalks in front of my house are horrible. Yeah, they are. I can replace this one and that one. I physically do that myself. Make a decision, prioritize. So again, it's a funding issue. That the Board of Public Works presented that letter to the mayor, and the mayor said, well, right now the city has no funds. So we're living on Chapter 90 funds to do our road work.
Are there funds, though, through grants and things like that that you can get independent of what the city has from their revenue streams? Is there money that the state has that we can go after that we're not going after?
We're going after everyone we can. The planning department does one heck of a job with that. Matter of fact, they're on Admiral Street now, phase 2, and there's phase 3 there too. Admiral Street, Charles Street, that end of Maple Street, they've never seen work from us. Because that's just not on our priority, because we've got Main Street to think about, not Charles Street.
Yeah.
Well, it fits into that grant application, so they're working on it now. But, yeah, but they, again, those are small streets.
I wonder if there are safety grants out there that we can go after.
We can
Maybe
Does Jeff
bring it
Bag
to Jeff and.
do all your
the mayor.
grants?
I mean, there's money out there.
Right.
There's money out there. I mean,
And,
just a
and,
fact.
and if,
There is.
and if the issue of not doing what we have to do in the street is about money, these people have to know. These people have to be clear that we are not doing it because we don't have the money. That we want to do it, but the reason we're not doing it is because we don't have the funds.
Well, we better
And we have to-
exhaust our,
Of
every
course.
avenue before we
And
give
I
the
agree
answer.
with you 100%. And that's why this committee is gonna send a recommendation letter to the DPW and to the mayor and to Jeff
Jeff.
to see what we can do as a city.
Yeah.
And bring in the concerns that our constituents have. And that way we can give it an answer. Because I think that they deserve an answer, especially if you have kids. And it's a safety issue for those kids and for everybody. I think it's really important, having answers. And if the answer is that we don't have money, at least you have an answer.
And then we go to Representative Dan Carey. And
Yes.
him, you know, I mean,
Yes,
seriously.
exactly,
I'm not
exactly.
even
We
kidding.
have to find the money, we have to find it.
It's his town.
Joey's first.
I just wanted to add one more thing. We have 90 miles of road in the city. We should be doing something to those roads every 10 years, whether it's crack sealing them or mill and fill, or even full depth reclamation like Clap Street or we should be doing something to each one of those every 10 years. That's 9 miles of road we should be doing every year. Something. We're doing about 2 miles with the money that we have. Every year, we're falling 7 miles behind.
So I have one more question.
Yes, please, Councilor Coniff.
Chief,
Yes,
this
ma'am.
might be back at you.
Taking copious
I'm
notes.
brainstorming. I'm brainstorming. So imagine a road.
If you will.
We're spending too much
Just
time.
dated, I think we dated ourselves.
Can you, again, is it legal?
I love these questions in
Can you
public.
put
Right.
temporary things in the road as a diverge, like orange cones, and I know that's, but like, so I'm coming down, it's like, whoa, something's sticking out, I better slow down, whoa.
Oh,
Like
it's
going
fine.
up.
It's actually funny you mention that. I was just coming back down the mountain, and we're thinking, I was actually with one of my sergeants, and we're talking about Cape Cod, how they have, Joe's gonna hate me on this.
Yeah, those stupid things
Yeah,
that are in the middle
of the road.
But why
right.
can't you have them kind
So-
of jog down a road like that?
We were talking about, that's something we should look at down the road for Mountain Road, because we have so many head-ons and close calls, and it'd be a nightmare for Joe to plow, of course. And I don't know how they do it at the Cape. I don't know if they just plow them right over. They don't remove them, but nonetheless, so it's kind of to your point, but as far as putting anything in the roadway, not a good idea. Short of, like, one of the, I'm a big.
Kind of genius, though, don't you
I'm a
think?
big fan, and I've advocated for them forever, the crosswalk signs in the middle of the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They work.
That worked.
Yeah.
And
That worked.
because there's, I've said this before at the same meeting, that there's crosswalks in town that you don't know there's crosswalks there unless those things are.
Right, right.
I agree.
there.
All
But
right,
I'd be.
that's all the brainstorming I
Yeah,
got.
I'd be careful. To Joe's point, though, you know, the line painting is a big deal, because that definitely is statistically known to slow traffic.
Yo,
As far as cones or barrels in the road, you have no idea how many we lose. And they're out there for a reason, because we have a catch basin that's caved in, and we have a hole in the road or something that's out there for a reason.
Yeah.
You have no idea how many of those we lose to traffic blowing them off.
Chris?
So you made a good point, an interesting point about creating the illusion of a narrow road with lines in the middle. Speaking of Clark specifically, is there room to put white lines on the sides
Well,
to make it even appear narrower?
well, that I'm not sure, because what you need is, at a minimum, an 11-foot lane. So you would need 22 feet, but yet
Plus.
plus, because you gotta have some room to put some place to put the line. But again, if we had funds, we'd probably put white lines on more streets.
You wanna add something else?
What's that? So, I'd like to sit back down with you on current city ordinances, and some maybe we can increase the fees to raise more money, because all I hear is there's no money. So any way we can generate funds, I think, is where we need to look at some of this stuff and hopefully support, you know, the city with some of these things, and hopefully the marijuana revenue as well increases and helps some of these ideas. But I agree with Peg that we need to reach out to Jeff and the mayor and everybody else about grant money that's out there. I'm sure there's safety money and everything else. If not, we'll go to Carrie, Representative Carrie, and attack it on that, because there's got to be an answer other than I don't have the money, you know, and that's all I'm hearing. Don't have the money, don't have the money. There's
Because
got to
we'll
be
come up
ways.
with that money if a kid gets killed on that road.
Yes,
We'll get up, we'll
exactly.
come up with it in
Yeah,
a heartbeat.
I agree with you.
So, I think we try every avenue right
And
now.
and that's what this committee is going to do this
Yep,
week,
yep.
before I go on vacation.
You're not going on vacation.
We're going to send letters to the different departments, and we expect answers,
Mhm.
because at the letter, we're gonna ask for answers before next meeting. So that's our commitment with you guys. We're gonna send letters to the mayor, DPW, and the planning department to see what the city can do or they cannot do. And if we have an answer that they don't have the money, so we're going to do our diligence to contact our state rep and our state senator to see if we get money somehow. That's the commitment that we're gonna do with you guys. This committee is gonna do with you guys. I promise that. We don't have anything else in our agenda. I want to set next meeting is gonna be September 3rd. This room at 6 p.m. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
I didn't realize Chief Alberti was going to be here. I wanted to thank you personally for eliminating that party bar on our bike path.
Yeah, but that is not in our agenda, so.
I don't know what the man
I
on
will
Rails
take
Trail was thinking when they approved
So
that.
moved.
a
Thank you.
second. All in favor, aye.
They didn't.